Hi, everybody. This is a story that begins with silence, with a shadow moving through the early morning heat of Phoenix, Arizona, and ends with a miracle. A miracle carried in the jaws of a wounded, aging dog. At first, nobody understood what they were seeing. Not the receptionist who screamed, not the triage nurse who dropped her clipboard, not even the security guard who reached for his pepper spray. Because what they saw didn't make sense. A battered German shepherd, coat matted, eyes clouded, limping slightly as he stepped through the automatic doors of St. Joseph's Hospital at exactly 6:42 a.m., a black plastic garbage bag hanging gently from his mouth. He didn't bark. He didn't growl. He didn't hesitate. He walked like he had a destination, like he had done this before, like he understood the gravity of his mission. Nurse Aaron Caldwell had just finished treating a heat stroke case and was heading to grab 5 minutes of coffee when she heard the receptionist scream. Half expecting a drunk or someone fleeing the police, she turned and froze. The dog wasn't charging. He wasn't lost or scared. He was calm, and he was carrying something. The bag dangled oddly, swinging not like it was filled with trash, but like something precious was inside. Something fragile. Aaron stepped forward slowly. "Easy," she said, holding out her hand. The dog didn't move, his eyes locked on hers, steady, unblinking, a soldier on duty. He placed the bag at her feet with astonishing gentleness, then backed up 3 steps and sat. People were shouting. Phones were out. Security was barking orders. But Aaron only heard one sound, the crinkling of plastic as she reached down, hands already trembling. She peeled the bag open. Inside, wrapped in a stained towel, was a baby, a newborn, her skin bluish, umbilical cord still attached, lips barely moving. "Oh my God," Aaron whispered. She didn't wait. She shouted for a crash cart. The ER exploded into motion. Warming lights were fired up, alarms blared. Nurses moved in unison, a well-oiled machine in crisis mode. The baby they'd later call her Grace was cold and barely breathing. But even in the chaos, no one could ignore the dog. He hadn't moved, he hadn't barked. He just watched, stone still, like a statue carved from duty and time. Dr. Stephen Hale, Aaron's longtime mentor, rushed in. "How the hell did she get here?" he asked. Aaron pointed to the dog. "He brought her." Dr. Hale blinked. "That dog? He carried a newborn through Phoenix?" "He walked through the front doors," Aaron said, "set her at my feet, and waited." Security didn't know what to do. Animal control was called. A few nurses were uneasy. But Aaron knelt beside him and saw something they didn't. Calm, clarity, purpose. She brushed back the grime around his ear and found it. A faint tattoo. An old K9 unit number. "He's not a stray," she told the head of security. "He's retired law enforcement." The guard grunted. "Still shouldn't be in a hospital." Aaron narrowed her eyes. "He carried a dying infant 20 blocks through the heat. He's staying until I say otherwise." And that's when something shifted. Not just in the room, but in Aaron. She'd seen soldiers before, in Iraq, in chaos. She'd patched them up under fire, whispered to them in blood-soaked tents. This dog, he moved like them. She didn't know why he came to her, why he chose that moment, why he picked that hospital. But she couldn't shake the feeling. This wasn't chance. This was deliberate. And that meant someone had trusted this dog more than they trusted any human being. That trust would change everything. 15 minutes after Grace was admitted, the ER had settled into its controlled chaos. Monitors beeped in rhythm with her fragile heartbeat. Her body, now warmed under soft lights, began to show signs of life, the faintest stir of fingers, the subtle shifting of tiny lips. But Aaron didn't leave her side. Not yet. Not with that dog still watching, still silent, like he'd sworn an oath. Detective Luis Navarro arrived just after 7. He was a man who had seen plenty. Crime scenes, confessions, lies wrapped in half-truths. But even he had to pause when Aaron told him what happened. "So," he said, flipping open his notebook, "a dog just walked in with a baby?" "Yep," Aaron replied without blinking. "No idea where he came from?" "None," she said. "But this wasn't random. I don't believe that." Navarro crouched in front of the dog, who didn't flinch. He examined the tattoo behind the ear, the scars lacing the shepherd's body. "Military or police?" Navarro murmured. "That explains a lot." Aaron nodded. "I was a combat medic in Iraq, treated a few like him. He moves like a soldier." She paused. "He reminds me of one we lost after a raid. Never found him. But they never confirmed his death either. Navarro wrote that down. If that's true, someone out there is going to want to know he's still alive. Later that afternoon, hospital security pulled up lobby footage. It was like watching a scene from a movie, only real, grainy, time-stamped. The dog limped up to the automatic doors, waited as an elderly couple exited, then stepped forward with surgical precision. He didn't sniff or hesitate. He walked the corridors like he knew them, past reception, down the hallway, and right into the nurse's lounge where Aaron happened to be on her 5-minute break. He knew, Navarro muttered. He wasn't wandering. He was delivering. Back in the NICU, baby Grace was holding on. Dr. Peterson, the neonatologist, was cautiously optimistic. She'd been born less than 12 hours before, somewhere nearby, definitely not in a hospital. Whoever delivered her hadn't clamped the umbilical cord properly. It was tied with a shoelace. That's attempted murder, Navarro said, jaw clenched. Aaron didn't argue, but all she could see in her mind was the dog. This quiet, scarred guardian who carried a baby through the Arizona heat, a newborn who was growing colder by the minute, and somehow found the one place where help could be found. That night, Aaron stayed after her shift. She didn't go home. She brought the dog, she'd started calling him Ranger, into the on-call room with her. He curled up near the door, guarding it like it was a command post. "Why me?" she whispered in the dark. "Why here?" Ranger didn't move, but he blinked, slow and deliberate, like he understood something she didn't. And maybe he did. At 3:12 a.m., while most of Phoenix slept beneath the stale blanket of heat and street lights, a baby fought for her life inside a glowing incubator. And Aaron Caldwell, who hadn't left the hospital in nearly a full day, paced quietly outside, sipping bitter vending machine coffee she didn't even want. Ranger lay at her feet, eyes half closed, ears twitching only when the overhead lights flickered. She couldn't shake it. The image of the black garbage bag, the newborn inside, and the dog who wouldn't let go until he was sure she was safe. That wasn't an accident. That was trust. A few minutes later, Navarro returned, this time holding two things, a printed crime scene report and a paper bag with breakfast burritos. "I brought you one," he said, handing it to her. "Egg and green chile. Not hospital food." Aaron managed a tired smile. "You really know how to charm a girl." "I try." Then he motioned toward the hallway. "We found her." Aaron froze. "The mother?" Navarro nodded. "Jessica Lane, pediatric nurse, worked here, down the hall from you." Aaron covered her mouth. I knew her, not well, quiet, polite, always picked up extra shifts." "Turns out," Navarro said, "nobody knew she was pregnant." "No one?" Aaron asked. "Not her supervisor, not her friends, nobody." "She gave birth alone?" "Yeah, in her apartment. Cut the cord herself. Kitchen scissors, most likely. We think she passed out afterward. Died by suicide. 2 hours before the dog showed up." Aaron turned away, her throat tightening. "And somehow," Navarro said softly, "that dog knew." Ranger lifted his head at the sound of their voices. "We found a bag of opened canned food on her back porch," Navarro continued. "Wasn't for her." "She'd been feeding him," Aaron murmured. "She trusted him," Navarro said, "and he trusted her." By morning, the story was already catching fire. Hospital staff were whispering. The media was circling. Headlines were popping up like brush fires. Retired K9 saves newborn. Miracle in Phoenix. Guardian dog delivers baby to ER. But inside the hospital, things were quieter, more fragile. Dr. Stephen Hale called a closed-door meeting with legal. Patricia Marks, the hospital lawyer, was trying to contain the story. "We need to be careful," she said. "This is a tragedy involving a former employee, but also a potential liability." Dr. Hale cut her off. A newborn was abandoned. A nurse died. And we're talking lawsuits. Patricia's jaw tightened. "We're talking damage control." Aaron raised a hand. "What happens to the baby?" "For now," Hale said, "she's a ward of the state. CPS is reviewing temporary placement." "She has a name," Aaron said quietly. "Grace." That afternoon, Aaron made a phone call she hadn't made in years. She reached out to Mitchell, a contact from her old army days. "Been a while," he answered. "You okay?" "I think I found a dog from a K9 unit I treated back in Iraq," she said. "Same scars, same tattoo, still protecting people." The line went silent for a moment. "Send me a picture of his ear," Mitchell finally said. "If it's him, he shouldn't even be in the US without a handler." Aaron paused. "I think his handler might still be alive," she said, "and looking for him." By 5:45 p.m., Detective Navarro returned to the hospital, eyes rimmed red from lack of sleep, but his hands carried something new. A sealed plastic evidence bag and a weight he hadn't been able to shake all day. Inside the bag was a folded piece of paper, worn, water-stained, but still legible. This was in the bottom of the trash bag, he said, handing it to Aaron. Forensics missed it at first. Aaron unfolded it with trembling fingers. Her name is Grace. Please find someone who will love her. I can't do this anymore. I'm sorry, Jessica. The handwriting was small and neat. No panic, no mess. Just quiet resolve, a farewell. She picked the name, Aaron whispered. Navarro nodded. She also picked the delivery system. Aaron looked at him, confused. We checked Jessica's journal, he said. Found it under her bed. One entry stood out. He opened his notebook and read aloud. The dog trusts her. She helped him once. She'll help Grace too. Silence spread like smoke through the ER lounge. By 9 p.m. the story had fully leaked. News vans packed the parking lot. Social media exploded. Speculation ran wild. Some called it a hoax. Others dubbed Ranger a guardian angel. One post, a photo of the dog sitting beside Grace's incubator, went viral with the caption, "We don't deserve dogs." The next morning, Aaron walked Ranger outside to a grassy patch near the ambulance bay. Someone had left a dog bed and a bowl of water. She knelt beside him. You're famous now, she said softly, running her fingers beneath his chin. He leaned into her touch, slow and deliberate. Then she felt it again, the scar behind his right ear. It hit her like a wave. Baghdad. 9 years ago, a field outpost torn by gunfire and smoke. She'd been new, scared, bleeding. And there was a dog, hit by shrapnel, eye damaged, flank torn up, but steady, unmoving. She had whispered to him back then, holding him still as the field vet stitched him together. You're not done, soldier. You're going to make it. I promise. Now, staring into the single calm eye of this weathered dog, she asked the question her heart already knew the answer to. Are you him? Ranger blinked once, then turned his head toward the hospital, toward Grace. That afternoon, a social worker named Maria Lopez arrived from CPS. Clipboard in hand, she entered the NICU with the same professional calm Aaron had once worn like armor. We're placing the baby in temporary foster care, she said, pending medical clearance and investigation. Aaron's gut twisted. She just got here. She's still healing. Maria nodded. We understand, but we need to follow process. She chose me, Aaron said quietly. Jessica? She left a note. She named me. Maria's pen paused mid-sentence. Do you have it? Navarro stepped forward. Yes, and I've got more. Jessica had kept detailed journals, not just thoughts, but documentation, long entries about Ranger, about Aaron, about her fears. One entry stood out. I see them both, the nurse and the dog, scarred, still serving, still showing up. I wish I had that strength. Maybe I can borrow theirs, just long enough to save Grace. Back in the break room, Aaron sat alone with Ranger. The journal rested on her lap. She ran her fingers down the faded ink, voice barely above a whisper. She didn't just trust you, she said. She trusted us. Around midnight, Navarro knocked on the on-call room door. His shirt was wrinkled, his badge clipped crooked, but his expression carried purpose. We found him, he said. Who? Ranger's original handler, Officer Eric Walker, retired, living in Tucson. He's been searching for his dog for 3 years. Aaron stood slowly, heart hammering. Is he coming? He's on his way. Upstairs, Grace was sleeping peacefully, her breathing steady and strong. Aaron placed a gentle hand on the edge of the incubator. You're not going anywhere without a fight, she whispered. Behind her, Ranger stood like a sentry, watching, guarding the smallest soldier he'd ever protected. By the time Officer Eric Walker stepped through the hospital's sliding doors, a storm that had rumbled all day over Phoenix finally broke. Rain pounded the pavement. Thunder cracked like cannon fire. Inside, the ER fell quiet as the doors opened. Ranger lifted his head, his ears perked, his body stiffened like a drawn bow. Then, for the first time since arriving, he made a sound, a high, keening whine, sharp and trembling, like something long buried had stirred awake. Aaron turned instantly. There, soaked to the bone, hair plastered to his forehead, stood a man with a pair of crutches. Ranger, the man called, voice raw and shaking. Is that you, buddy? The dog didn't move at first. He looked to Aaron just for a beat, then back at the man, and then he ran. A blur of scarred fur and muscle shot across the tile. Eric dropped one crutch and fell to his knee just as Ranger barreled into him, not with force but with a need that transcended words. He whimpered, tail thumping, muzzle buried in the man's chest. Aaron stood rooted, throat thick, as something unspoken passed between them. Not just recognition, not just relief. Something sacred. "I knew it," Eric whispered over and over. "I knew you were alive. I never stopped looking." Visitors stopped to stare. Nurses froze mid-step. Even security said nothing. When Eric finally stood, with Aaron's help, Ranger pressed against his leg like a shadow. "He found a baby," Aaron said softly. "Carried her here." Eric stared at her. 20 blocks? Wrapped in a garbage bag. He never let go. Eric blinked rapidly. "That dog's not just trained. He's got something else." "Soul," Aaron whispered. They looked down at Ranger, who looked back at them both with his one good eye as if to say, "Mission still active." They moved to the on-call room to dry off. Eric slowly removed his prosthetic leg, stretching stiff muscles. "He was my partner," he said. 4 years, K9 Division, Mesa PD, bomb detection, missing persons, narcotics, saved my life twice." "What happened?" Aaron asked. "Gun bust, Glendale. We breached, shots fired. I took a round to the leg." Ranger broke off to pursue the shooter. "They found me, but never found him." Aaron nodded slowly. "He showed up on the streets a few months later," she said. "Jessica, Grace's mom, had been feeding him." Eric rubbed his face. "Jesus, and all this time, I thought." He trailed off. Aaron didn't push. Instead, she pulled out the dog tags she'd found sewn inside Ranger's collar. Eric reached for them like they were holy. "You kept these, huh?" he murmured to the dog. "Smart boy." Then his eyes met Aaron's. "He was never just a dog," he said. "He was family." Upstairs, Grace was improving. Her color had returned, no longer dusky blue but a pale pink. She no longer needed the ventilator. Nurses rotated through every 2 hours to monitor her vitals, but the questions surrounding her future grew louder with each passing hour. Who would raise her? Who would fight for her? That night, Navarro returned with a cardboard evidence box marked Lane Residence. Inside, Jessica's journals, a USB drive, several envelopes. He handed one envelope to Aaron. "It's addressed to you." She opened it with shaking hands. Inside, a single handwritten letter. "Aaron, I've seen you, not just at work, but how you move through the world. Calm, steady, kind. Ranger trusts you. So do I. If something happens to me, please protect her. Her name is Grace. She deserves the kind of love that heals, not the kind that hides things. I know this isn't fair, but I believe in you." Jessica, it was short, but it landed like a punch to the ribs. Jessica had planned this. She had chosen Aaron long before the night she died. She had trusted her with everything. Navarro nodded toward the USB drive. "That tells the rest of the story. 3 audio recordings, all with the same voice. Dr. Victor Alden, Jessica's mentor, and the chief of surgery at Phoenix Memorial. 'You'll ruin everything,' he said in one clip. 'Think anyone's going to believe you over me?' The final recording sent a chill down Navarro's spine. 'I know your father. He and I go way back. He's not going to let you destroy what he built.' That line alone cracked everything wide open. Jessica's father, Henry Lane, sat on the board of directors at Phoenix Memorial, a major donor. And suddenly, all the whispers, all the silent glances made sense. The next morning, CPS returned, this time with a lawyer representing the Lane family. They were filing for immediate custody of Grace. "She's our granddaughter," Henry Lane told Dr. Hale. "We have resources, a stable home. She belongs with family." Dr. Hale didn't blink. Her mother named Aaron Caldwell as guardian. "That's not legally binding," the lawyer replied. "Neither is money," Aaron muttered. "We're filing for emergency placement," the attorney snapped. "Miss Caldwell is not a relative. She has no rights." Navarro stepped forward. "Actually, she has evidence. A letter, audio recordings, Jessica's journals." Aaron added softly, "She didn't want her child raised in silence and shame." Margaret Lane said nothing. She stared at the floor, hands trembling. "We'll see you in court," Henry snapped. After they left, Aaron sat on a hospital bench outside the NICU. Ranger rested his head on her knee. Eric sat beside her, silent. "I'm not a mom," Aaron said. "I never even thought I'd be one." Eric looked up. "Neither did I." They sat like that for a long while, thunder rolling quietly in the distance. "She's going to need someone to fight for her," Aaron finally said. Eric squeezed her hand. "Then we fight." Later that afternoon, Dr. Hale pulled Aaron aside. He held new test results. "She's stable," he said, "but we found something." Aaron frowned. "What?" "Dioxin, a small but concentrated dose." Aaron's blood ran cold. "She was poisoned?" "Yes. Someone tampered with her IV, but we caught it early." Navarro appeared behind them, face grim. "Security footage shows several people came near the NICU this morning, including Henry Lane." Aaron clenched her fists. "He tried to kill her, to gain custody." "We can't prove that yet," Navarro said, "but we're working on it." That evening, Aaron returned to the NICU. Grace was awake, barely, but her eyes were open. "You're tougher than any of us," she whispered, placing a hand gently on the incubator. Ranger sat beside her, silent and alert. Eric leaned in the doorway. "You know," he said, "he still thinks he's working, like he never retired." Aaron smiled through the ache in her chest. "Maybe he isn't." She looked back at Grace. "Maybe none of us are." When Aaron walked into the hospital boardroom the next morning, it felt less like a meeting and more like a courtroom. On one side of the long mahogany table sat Henry and Margaret Lane, flanked by two high-powered attorneys. Beside them, Dr. Victor Alden, freshly shaved, navy suit pressed, silver hair neatly combed. On the other side, Aaron in clean but rumpled scrubs, Navarro calm and composed, Dr. Hale standing tall at the head of the table. Eric sat quietly by the door. Ranger lay beside him like a sentinel. No one said a word when Aaron entered, only the quiet tapping of Ranger's claws on the tile floor. Henry Lane scoffed. "You brought the dog. Is that necessary?" "He saved your granddaughter's life," Dr. Hale replied. "I'd say his presence is more earned than anyone's." The tension in the room could have cracked stone. Patricia Marks, the hospital's legal counsel, began. "This meeting is to discuss custody concerns regarding Grace Lane, currently under care at St. Joseph's NICU. Legal guardianship is pending investigation." "She's our blood," Henry said. "She belongs with family." Navarro opened a folder, calm but deliberate. Jessica Lane left behind journals, audio recordings, and a letter naming Nurse Caldwell as her preferred guardian. "That's not binding," Henry's lawyer interrupted. "She was unstable, clearly in crisis." Aaron's voice was quiet but razor-sharp. "She wasn't unstable, she was silenced." The room stilled. "She went to you," she said, staring at Henry. "She told you what Dr. Alden did to her, and you told her to bury it." Margaret flinched. Henry's face hardened. Navarro didn't blink. "We've reviewed the recordings. Dr. Alden threatened her career, her credibility, and he named her father as someone who would take care of it." Henry leaned forward. "Do you have any idea the damage you're doing? My daughter was confused, sick. Or maybe," Navarro said, closing the folder, "she was just tired of being ignored." Dr. Hale turned to Alden. "Would you like to respond to the accusations?" Alden folded his hands calmly. "The accusations are false. I supported Jessica's career. She misconstrued professional boundaries." "Boundaries don't usually include threats," Navarro said. "If she recorded anything," Alden replied coldly, "it's out of context." "I'm sure a jury will decide that," Navarro said. The Lane attorney stood. "This meeting is about the baby, not my client's history." Aaron stood as well. "Grace is what this is about. Jessica wanted her raised somewhere safe, somewhere honest." She turned to Margaret. "That's not going to happen under your roof." Margaret's eyes shimmered. She looked at the floor. "She's all we have left," she said softly. "We just want her to be cared for." "Then honor your daughter's wishes," Aaron said. That afternoon, the whispers turned into headlines. "Retired K9 delivers baby. Hospital scandal emerges. Nurse claims assault cover-up by prominent doctor." The public didn't know everything, but they knew enough. Navarro pulled Aaron aside. "They're pushing hard to get Grace transferred to Phoenix Memorial," he said, "claiming she needs care only available there. They've even reached out to the governor's office." Aaron's jaw clenched. "They want to bury this, just like they buried Jessica." That evening, Aaron sat alone in the NICU. Grace slept beneath soft lights, her tiny chest rising and falling. "She looks like her mom," Dr. Hale said, entering quietly. "She was sharp," he added. "I remember her as a student. Quiet, but sharp." "I failed her," Aaron whispered. "No," he said. "You're here now, fighting for her daughter. That counts." They stood in silence. "She's stronger than she looks," Aaron said. "So is he." Dr. Hale nodded toward Ranger, curled beside the incubator. "I called a friend in Washington," he added. "There's a foundation for retired K9s. They'll verify Ranger's background by tomorrow. What happens if he's claimed? Aaron asked. A voice from the door answered. He was never lost. Eric said, just misplaced, big difference. The next morning, CPS returned with urgency, etched into every movement. They weren't alone this time. With them was a lawyer representing Phoenix Memorial and a new pediatric cardiac specialist prepared to testify that Grace required advanced monitoring, unavailable at St. Joseph's. We're not transferring her, Aaron said, arms crossed, voice steady. You're not moving her into a hospital run by the man who threatened her mother. Maria Lopez, the CPS social worker, looked torn. If Phoenix Memorial makes a formal medical claim... They're lying, Navarro cut in. They're orchestrating a cover-up. Moments later, Margaret Lane arrived. She looked different, no makeup, a simple sweater, her hair pulled back without effort. She walked slowly to the NICU doors. I need to see her, she said quietly. Aaron hesitated, then opened the door. Margaret stepped inside and approached the incubator. She didn't touch anything. She only stared. She's beautiful, she whispered. Just like she was. Aaron stood silently behind her. I didn't know, Margaret said, her voice fragile. Or maybe I did. Maybe I didn't want to. Henry said we had to protect the family name. I didn't ask what it would cost. You still have time to do the right thing, Aaron said gently. Margaret turned to her, eyes glassy. I want to help. I want to testify. Aaron exhaled, a knot loosening in her chest, then start by stopping the transfer. Downstairs, Henry Lane was in the director's office, flanked by his lawyers, demanding compliance. Dr. Alden stood beside him, posture perfect, face unreadable. When Margaret entered the room and placed a hand on Henry's arm, he turned sharply. We're done, she said quietly. What are you doing? Henry snapped. I'm telling the truth. That same day, Navarro filed for a search warrant on Alden's vehicle. It didn't take long. Forensics found a small vial of dioxin tucked in the glove compartment, still labelled from Phoenix Memorial's restricted pharmacy, a batch never stocked at St. Joseph's. When confronted, Alden barely blinked. You can't prove I gave it to her, he said. Maybe not yet, Navarro replied, but we can prove tampering, intent, conspiracy. Hours later, Dr. Alden was led out of the hospital in handcuffs. His license was suspended, his reputation shattered. Aaron stood at the NICU window and watched the police car pull away. Thunder rumbled again in the distance, just like the day Ranger first arrived. That night, Margaret returned to the hospital. I've filed a sworn statement, she told Aaron, handing her a copy. I've also withdrawn from the custody petition. Aaron nodded slowly. Thank you. She loved you, Margaret said, voice catching. She trusted you. That's enough for me. Behind them, Grace stirred gently in the incubator. Ranger rose and moved closer, ever watchful. You're going to make a good mom, Margaret whispered. Aaron's eyes filled. I hope so. Later that night, Aaron sat in the hallway, hands in her pockets. Eric leaned against the wall nearby, watching her. What happens now? She asked. He smiled faintly. Now we keep going. Ranger padded up beside her, tail low but wagging. Outside, the rain had finally stopped. The air was fresh, like something had been washed clean. The hospital was already beginning to hum. Nurses changed shifts. Coffee carts rolled past, and in the NICU, Grace lay sleeping, breathing on her own. Aaron stood beside the incubator, hand resting on its edge, whispering words no one else could hear. Beside her, Ranger sat, his posture tight, eyes trained on the hallway. His tail didn't wag anymore, not since Alden had been taken away. He knew something was still wrong. He can feel it, Eric said, entering the room with 2 mugs of coffee. Aaron accepted one. So can I. By mid-morning, the storm hadn't ended. It had only changed shape. Phoenix Memorial had filed a second emergency petition, this time citing emotional entanglement. Their new attorney called Aaron's actions personally compromised, argued that St. Joseph's was too invested. They make it sound like I stole her, Aaron said, reading the documents. You didn't, Navarro said. You saved her. Dr. Hale entered with the kind of calm that always meant trouble. They've looped in a medical ethics board, he said. They're coming this afternoon to observe our care protocols. That's lawyer speak for find something to discredit us, Navarro muttered. So we need to be perfect, Aaron said. No, Dr. Hale corrected. We need to be undeniable. That afternoon, as Grace napped, Aaron met privately with Maria Lopez. You've met every condition, Maria said. No criminal record, psychological clearance. The affidavit from Margaret Lane carries weight. But, Aaron asked. Maria hesitated. They might use Ranger against you. The dog? They'll argue he's a danger to the baby, unpredictable, a liability. Aaron pointed toward the NICU window. He's been sitting guard for 6 days straight. He hasn't moved without permission. He's not a liability, he's a protector. I know, Maria said gently, but courts don't always see what we see. At 3:47 p.m., during shift change, Aaron stepped away for 5 minutes. She needed air, just 5 minutes. She returned at 3:52 to the sound of alarms. Grace's heart monitor was shrieking. Nurses rushed in. Dr. Peterson was already there, performing compressions. Sweat dotted his forehead. "Code blue," someone shouted. Aaron froze, then ran, scrubbing in mid-stride. "What happened?" she asked. "She was stable," Peterson said, his voice tight. Then her heart rate just crashed. No warning. They worked methodically. Oxygen, fluids. A second crash cart rolled in. "Come on, Grace," Aaron whispered, tears pressing at her throat. "Stay with us." And then a faint sound. Beep, beep, beep. Her heart rate returned, fragile but steady. Afterward, the team reviewed everything. Logs, charts, footage. "It's too sudden," Peterson said. "No signs, no symptoms, just like last time." Navarro arrived an hour later with 2 security officers. They rewatched the hallway surveillance, 3:43 p.m. Henry Lane, alone, standing outside the NICU, then entering. Staying for 47 seconds and walking out, calm. "That's enough time," Navarro said. "Plenty." "But what did he do?" Aaron asked. A nurse replied from the corner. "He had no clearance. He must have slipped past the desk." "I'm filing for a restraining order," Navarro said, "tonight." That night, Aaron didn't leave the NICU. She stayed curled in a chair beside the incubator. Ranger lay across the doorway like a living gate. At 1:30 a.m., thunder cracked again. Lights flickered once. Twice. Ranger whimpered, then snapped to alert. Seconds later, Eric appeared. "Power grid's unstable," he said. "They're switching to backup." In the flickering light, Aaron noticed something odd in Ranger's collar, a bulge she hadn't seen before. She gently unsnapped the flap and found a hidden, waterproof pouch. Inside, a folded photograph and a laminated ID tag. The photo was old. Ranger, younger, unscarred, sitting beside a smiling young officer in the desert. On the back, if found, call 602-555-5178. "This dog is a hero. Bring him home," sung Eric Walker. Aaron handed it to Eric without a word. He stared at it, blinked twice, and said softly, "I never thought I'd see this again." The next morning, Judge Karen Holloway arrived. She didn't come with reporters, no cameras, just quiet authority and a reputation for fairness. She asked only for a short tour, to meet the people involved. Aaron led her to the NICU. When they entered, Ranger stood and sat at attention. The judge stopped, stared. "This is Ranger," Aaron said. "He's been with her the whole time." Judge Holloway crouched, held out a hand. Ranger sniffed, then gently placed his paw in hers. No bark, no fuss, just trust. Later, in a private meeting, the judge asked one question. "Why you?" Aaron thought for a long time. "I didn't ask for this," she said. "But when that dog walked into the ER carrying Grace, everything in me told me to fight for her, not just medically, fully. She didn't need pity. She needed someone who wouldn't leave." The judge nodded slowly. "Thank you, Nurse Caldwell." Later that day, Dr. Hale found Aaron in the break room. His expression told her before he spoke. "We got the final toxicology report back from the second crash," he said. Aaron braced herself. "Same as before," he continued. "Dioxin. Same dosage. Almost identical." Navarro, who had been reviewing documents by the window, looked up. Intentional. Precise. "We also found residue on a pair of gloves," Dr. Hale added. "Thrown away in the janitorial trash bin. They're testing for fingerprints now." Aaron leaned against the counter, hands trembling. "How many times," she asked, "do they get to try and silence her?" Navarro stepped forward. "As many times as we let them, but not any more." By sunset, Navarro had enough to act. He issued an emergency restraining order against Henry Lane and filed formal charges of attempted murder, supported by toxicology reports, security footage, and nurse testimony. Aaron watched from the NICU window as officers escorted Henry from the hospital in handcuffs. Margaret Lane stood nearby, silent, watching as the truth and the consequences finally caught up to her husband. For the first time, she didn't try to stop it. That night, the hospital remained tense but quiet. Outside, news vans still lined the street like vultures waiting for movement. Inside, Grace slept peacefully, her vitals steady. Ranger lay at her side, head resting gently against the plastic frame of her incubator, eyes fixed on the door. "She's not just a case," Aaron said softly, watching the rise and fall of Grace's chest. "She's not some PR disaster or family secret. She's a little girl," Eric added, "and she's getting better." Aaron looked down at Ranger. So is he. 1 year later, the backyard of a small home in Tempe, Arizona, was full of sunlight and laughter. Grace, now 13 months old, sat barefoot on a checkered blanket in the grass, her chubby fingers squashing a cupcake into her face, while a nurse from St. Joseph's clapped with delight. Lying beside her, head tucked gently near her foot, was Ranger. His ears twitched now and then, but his body was relaxed. His job for today was simply to be home. Aaron stepped outside wearing jeans and a soft blue tee. She carried a tray of iced tea, scanning the backyard full of folding chairs, picnic tables, and people she once could never imagine being part of her life. Now, she couldn't imagine life without them. Near the edge of the lawn, Dr. Hale and Eric were setting up a cornhole board. Eric moved without a limp now, months of therapy and Ranger's companionship having restored a rhythm he once believed lost. "You okay?" he asked as Aaron approached. She nodded, just taking it in. He took a glass of tea. "Last year we were sleeping in call rooms and fighting lawsuits. Today we're barbecuing." "She made it," Aaron said, watching Grace. "So did you." The past year had been a whirlwind, legal battles, healing, quiet victories. Henry Lane was indicted on charges of attempted murder and obstruction. His trial was ongoing. Margaret, after testifying against her husband, stepped out of the spotlight. But she visited Grace once a month, bringing soft toys and photo albums of Jessica's childhood. Dr. Alden lost his license permanently. After Jessica's story came to light, more women came forward. His silence ended the day evidence proved he had illegally smuggled deoxin from Phoenix Memorial's locked pharmacy. His name became a warning, not a legacy. But none of that lived in this yard. Inside the house, the walls bore signs of a new life. A framed photo of Aaron holding Grace outside the courthouse the day Judge Holloway signed off on permanent guardianship. A small plaque from St. Joseph's, honoring Ranger as the first official therapy dog emeritus. Above the hallway, a hand-stitched sampler gifted by Margaret Lane. Found family, forged in fire, forever. Ranger had changed too. He still had nightmares. Thunderstorms made him nervous, but he slept better now. The vet confirmed he was nearly 10. His hip stiffness was manageable. His bad eye hadn't worsened. He wasn't just surviving, he was healing. The local news had asked to do a follow-up segment. The dog who saved a life. Aaron declined. "This isn't a headline," she said. "It's our life." That afternoon, Detective Navarro arrived with his teenage son. Grace toddled toward them with unsteady but determined feet, a dandelion clutched in her fist. She offered it to him like a treasure. Navarro laughed. "She's already a heartbreaker." Aaron hugged him. "You saved her. More than once." "Just doing my job," he said, placing a gift-wrapped box on the patio table. "That one's for Ranger." Inside, a plush canine toy in a miniature police uniform. Stitched on the collar, Ranger. The real Ranger sniffed it once, then laid his chin on it, as if it had always been his. As dusk fell, string lights blinked on overhead. Soft guitar music floated from someone's speaker. Dr. Hale raised a soda can. "To the ones who never gave up," he said. "To the baby who brought us together, the dog who led the way, and the people who chose love over legacy." Everyone raised a glass. "Here's to starting over," he added, "and knowing that sometimes the best families are the ones we find." Later that night, after the guests had gone, Aaron sat on the back steps, watching Grace sleep under the tree. Ranger lay beside her, snoring softly. Eric handed Aaron a blanket and sat beside her. "You ready for what's next?" he asked. She leaned against him. "I think I already have it." He kissed her temple. No grand gesture, just something true. Inside Grace's nursery, a photo of Jessica sat on a shelf beside a glowing nightlight. In it, she was smiling, scrubs on, badge-clipped, coffee in hand. Someday, Aaron would tell Grace who she was, not just how she died, but how she lived, how she fought, how she loved her, how she never gave up. And Ranger, he stayed by her side nearly every night. No leash, no commands, just instinct. Grace would fall asleep with her tiny fingers tangled in his fur, and Ranger, he would sleep like he had a mission. Because maybe he always would. Thank you for following this story, from the moment a tired, wounded dog walked into a hospital carrying a miracle, to this quiet backyard full of second chances. We hope it reminded you of the power of loyalty, courage, and the unexpected beauty of found family. If you believe animals can sense what people can't, or if you'd adopt a retired canine like Ranger, tell us in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to Heroes for Animals for more real-life stories that restore faith, one paw at a time. Until next time, stay kind, stay curious, and hug your miracles tight.